So I haven't talked to this guy in a while, but he's a buddy. He's an absolute stud. Frank Isola, the Nets studio. I didn't know Frank was the Nets studio host. He can't say anything bad about him now. He's the Nets studio host for Yes Network. Now, why you got to give me somebody objective, Fritz. You can't. He can't say.
I know. I love Frank too much. He's your guy.
Oh my God. He probably has more jobs than I do, which is hard to do. Net studio host on Yes, Sirius XM NBA Radio, the starting lineup host, ESPN Around the Horn, and PTI contributor. And at some point, Frank and I were on the same show. I have no recollection when that was or what show it was, but I know we were on. Frank, it's Ross Tucker. How you doing, buddy?
Ross, I'm doing really well. I think we did SNY. It was either SNY or maybe a show on NBC. And I think back then, it was probably more than 10 years ago. And I think you said that Tom Brady will be done after this year. I can't see him playing beyond 30. I think that was your call, if I remember correctly.
I don't know if I said that. I do want to get your thoughts. Look, I wanted you on, Frank. I can't stand the Nets, everything about them. Now, truth be told, like McLovin, I'm a Sixers fan. So we'll get into that in a second, okay? But I do need to start with the Patrick Ewing news because nobody knows, James Dolan, Madison Square Garden, the inner workings of the Knicks, everything better than you. What is your just initial reaction to the Ewing comments yesterday? I'll give you a blank slate.
Well, I think, first of all, I think Patrick was a little tongue-in-cheek. And I also think that after you win a game like that, and he's walking, and every 2 steps, he's getting asked to show his ID. I get how that could be frustrating, but the security guards are being told to check everybody. And in this world that we're living in with COVID, I'm sure they want to be worried about which groups of people are moving into a different area. I get all that. I'll tell you this. Years ago, they had a rule at Madison Square Garden where they said no one, unless you have a pass, could you get to certain areas. James Dolan, who owns the place, rolled up, and there was a security guard there at the booth and would not allow him to pass. And he got upset, but the security guard, again, was just following the rules that he was given. To me, it wasn't that big of a deal. I think Patrick was excited that they beat Villanova, and he probably thought it was annoying that he kept getting stopped. Ross, if you go to Staples Center, the security guards there wear red coats. To get back to the locker room, you have to bypass 3 levels of security to show your pass. You know how many times I've walked into the locker room and the final security guard will say, "Well, look at the pass." And I'll say to him, "How do you think I got this far? You think I'm James Bond? I had to pass 4 different guys just to get here. You know I'm legit at this point."
All right, so here's a question, Frank. NBA coaches, right? Because obviously the players are the players, but NBA coaches, where do they have the pass? Like in their pocket, right? They have a pass, right?
Yeah. And it also, too, everyone's wearing kind of the same, now everyone's wearing kind of the same uniform. So it's not an issue for NBA games. But a lot of times the coach will walk off the court with a security guard. They don't get stopped. You know who ends up getting stopped a lot of times? Undersized NBA players trying to get into the players' entrance at games. Because the security guard will say, you don't play for the team. Say a guy like Carson Edwards on Boston who is like 5'11". You could see a security guard saying, "You don't belong here." Patrick Ewing, I'm surprised that the security guards didn't know who they were, but I have sympathy for this is probably their second job, right, to make ends meet, and they're told, check everyone's pass. That's what they're doing.
All right, so was it a smart move by Ewing because we're talking about it and Georgetown hoops so much and the fact they beat Villanova, or bad move because it's overshadowing the fact that he probably got his best win as a college coach?
That is a fair point. Again, I think in the euphoria of the moment, you have a million things going through your head. You just beat Villanova. You're going to get prepared to play either Seton Hall or St. John's. Obviously, that result hadn't been decided yet. And you have a million things on your mind. You're walking through the building where you played, and every 2 feet you're getting stopped. It's the kind of thing that the average person isn't going to be upset with. I think Patrick, again, and I've known Patrick for a long time, I thought it was a little tongue-in-cheek, his post-game interview, which obviously became a big story.
Right now, we know how good the Nets are. We know how talented they are. Has it made a difference among the fans? Like, is there anybody that you know of, Frank, personally, that is now a Nets fan that wasn't previously?
I think, Ross, what's happened is I think locally in New York, the Knicks are still the team. The Nets have become a bigger team nationally because of James Harden, former MVP, and then, of course, for Kevin Durant. Harden they traded for, he's already played more games as a Net than Kevin Durant has played. Durant didn't play last year. He's only played 19 games this year. But to your point, they're just an exciting team to watch. And doing the games is fun, especially when Durant was out there, because everyone knows that Kevin Durant is great. But when you see him all the time when he's playing, you have a greater appreciation for just how good he is. And the Nets, I'm watching the game. I did the game last night, and Boston is a good team, and the game was competitive. And you catch yourself at some point thinking, the Celtics are going to have no chance to beat the Nets if Kevin Durant comes back and is healthy. No one in the East, I don't think, could beat them 4 to 7 times. And really, Durant is like, that's off the charts. Harden is brilliant. And then if Kyrie Irving, who is up and down, if he's going to play like that, engaged on both ends of the court, it makes the Nets that much better.
All right, we're talking with Frank Isola. He's got a ton of jobs, including being the Net studio host on Yes. You can check out his show here on Sirius
I'm
XM.
now a homer and a shill.
Yes,
for the Nets.
The starting lineup. So here's the deal, though, Frank. First of all, I don't like super teams. And look, We've had that argument. A lot of people know that. A lot of people don't like super teams. But especially this one. Kyrie Irving is not a likable guy. Harden, in particular, the way it ended in Houston, does not seem like a likable guy. Even Kevin Durant, Frank, I'm kind of like, I don't know. The burner account and couldn't beat him in Oklahoma City, so goes out to Golden State. Are they a likable team, or is this one of the most unlikable teams we've ever seen?
I'll say this about James Harden, and I did not agree with the way that he handled his exit in Houston. I didn't like that at all. And you had a young coach in Steven Silas, waited a long time to get that job, fellow Ivy Leaguer like yourself. And I didn't like that. He showed up for camp out of shape. He showed up late. Harden did. So to me, that was unprofessional. But since he's gotten to Brooklyn, the one thing about him, and this has been true throughout his career, the guy loves to play basketball. So he lives the life of a single guy. So he enjoys all the trappings of being a rich single guy, but when it comes to playing, he loves to play basketball. He's been incredibly unselfish. He looks to get other guys involved, and Kevin Durant is the same way. Kevin Durant very rarely takes a bad shot. He's unselfish. He defends. Kyrie Irving, I could see it because Kyrie's going to say things that are going to make you roll your eyes. Last night after the game, he said, I'm always about playing on the big stage. Well, hang on a second. Last year, the Nets went down to Orlando. You didn't go. So there was a big stage last year. In the summer, you decided not to go down there. I get it. Maybe the league needs a team to be the villains, and maybe that could be the Brooklyn Nets. But I'll say this, in terms of the way that they play, especially Harden and Durant, they're likable on the court with the way that they play.
All right. Do my Sixers, who, by the way, are homegrown, Embiid, Simmons, homegrown, do they have any chance to beat the Nets?
All right. So this year, Joel Embiid has done a couple of things. He got himself in better shape. He took care of his fitness. I don't think he's just eating 2 hamburgers and a milkshake every night. I think he's worried more about his diet. The big thing will be, can he make it through a season and playing most of the games? If he does, he's going to have a great chance to be MVP. He's averaging 30 and 15, which is remarkable. And right now, he's had 5 games of 40 points, 10 rebounds, 5 of them. The rest of the NBA combined has had 4. That's how good he's played. I think they could do it. I love Ben Simmons. I don't care that Ben Simmons doesn't shoot 3-pointers. The guy can defend. He's big. He's athletic. He gets to the basket. Doc Rivers has done a good job, and Tobias Harris has been that borderline all-star this year. Ross, remember, if the Nets play Brooklyn, the matchup problems, obviously, for both teams, the Nets have been unable to stop Joel Embiid. That will be a big issue if those two teams meet in the playoffs.
I certainly hope so. I'm even getting folks on chat row like Brian Guido say, has there ever been a larger group of unlikable players on one team or what? So shout out chat row. Fair or unfair, Frank?
Well, I understand it because Kevin Durant left the small market Oklahoma City Thunder and he went to the Warriors, who were already an established team and were coming off a 72-win season. And this is what I don't get from Kevin Durant. You wanted to go to Golden State, and it worked. You were a 2-time Finals MVP. You would have won a 3rd title had you not blown out your Achilles. And you left a great situation. You left Steph Curry, and you're kind of rolling the dice here in Brooklyn. Now, things are kind of set up for them, and if he's healthy, they're like I said, they could make a run. But I think Kevin Durant, if you listen to him in these post-game interviews, he's been incredibly humble. He has a box score in front of him, and when you ask him a question about the game, he knows why the team won, why they lost. He's just very much engaged, and he knows, I'll say this too, Ross, he knows that if this doesn't work out, he knows it's going to be on him. So for me, he's been fully invested in this team.
All right, you mentioned Embiid and the MVP. I'm curious about LeBron, because for so long, people were saying LeBron MVP, LeBron MVP. It almost feels like, Frank, from afar, that LeBron's playing every game because he wants to win the MVP. And I like it. I don't like these guys that sit out games. I like that he's playing, but is he chasing the wrong thing? I mean, is he chasing the MVP at the expense of what might be best for the Lakers long term?
Well, you're definitely onto something, because if you want to be MVP, you have to go for it. And I think that's going to be the thing with Embiid. You have to play in the games this year, especially it's 72, and LeBron's only missed one. And I think LeBron, he obviously cares about his legacy. To me, he is setting an unbelievable pace. And I think in a year, and you were just talking about Tom Brady before, the reason why these guys can play at this level at this age is because, number one, they keep their bodies in tip-top shape, but they still want to win and they love competition. And I give LeBron a lot of credit. He's accomplished more than any active player right now in the NBA, and he still wants to win MVP, and he wants to win one more championship. And that's all that it's about for him. And it's somewhat refreshing to see. And as you know, these guys now, Tom Brady, LeBron James, they play the game at a different level mentally. They're just so much smarter than the rest of the players. So why walk away at a time when, let's face it, you kind of have things figured out? But I think it'll be interesting to see over the next 20 games. If LeBron wants to be the MVP, Ross, he'll keep playing. If there comes a point when he says, you know what, I'm not going to be in tip-top shape for the playoffs, I'm going to back off, I think LeBron will decide whether or not he's going to be MVP this season.
Check him out on SiriusXM NBA Radio, the starting lineup. He's on Around the Horn. He's on PTI, and he is the studio host for the most unlikable team in NBA history, the Brooklyn Nets. Thank you, Frank.
Go Penn. Beat Princeton. Take care.
Oh,